Welcome back to Movies TV Mag. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mag. Good evening and welcome to this latest live video. Your headlines tonight: Shazam Fury of the Gods flops at the global box office, flops on Rotten Tomatoes, and Asher Angel leaks the fact that Wonder Woman will be in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom in a cameo. WB are in full panic mode, and if we're honest, that's what that whole Tom Cruise seeing the Flash movie is all about, if we're being absolutely honest. So where does DC go from here? Because it's not looking good, is it? James Gunn has been exposed by Ben Affleck this week. He hasn't responded to that said interview. Why did he say Ben Affleck was interested in directing a DC Universe movie when he's clearly not? John, evening. Mick, good evening. John, a very good evening. Have your say tonight. A very cold Cyprus evening, a wet Cyprus evening. So if everyone can come in and keep me warmed up, happy second birthday to the Snyder Cut. An absolutely tremendous achievement to think that Junkie XL binned his original soundtrack and did nearly 4 hours of music. I was blasting it out today. 2 years old. The Snyder Cut is 2 years old. A very happy birthday to the Snyder Cut, and I'm losing my voice already. I hate it. Anyway, but the Snyder Cut is great. I hate my throat, not the Snyder Cut. But yeah, so it's not been a good week, really, to be a DC fan, has it? It hasn't. I mean, look, the Shazam Fury of the Gods was always going to flop. It was never, ever going to be a success. We have a paradigm shift here. People don't want to see just okay franchise movies. They want to see high art. We did have a high art director at DC, and they fired him. This is what you call karma. Karma is a bitch, right? Also, James Gunn, when he announces, which I didn't realize at the time, he belatedly announced he's directing Superman Legacy, also says that really his heart really isn't in it. And he had to think about it before he did it. So that's not good either. We've got a director who doesn't really feel it in his bones, as he said it. We've got a director who really doesn't want to make a Superman movie. And we've got a director who's desperate to make a Superman movie in Zack Snyder, who's not allowed to make a Superman movie. The irony isn't lost on me. So all sorts of things going on. The Snyderverse is trending again. Those evil geniuses, Snyderverse fans, of taking advantage of the Snyder Cut's second birthday. Zack has posted an unseen picture of Batfleck as well. So he's getting involved. So much for him moving on. And, of course, we are getting basically a SnyderCon 2, apparently. That's what I think anyway. I think that's what it must be, on the 28th to the 30th of April. So there's never a dull moment at DC. But will this studio ever get it right? We did think with Zaslav coming in and a DC Studios and Gunn and Safran, that would be the case. But how do you go from wanting Todd Phillips to run DC Studios to Gunn and Safran? That's a very interesting question. What do you think? How do you go from wanting Todd Phillips to run DC Studios, then going to Gunn and Safran? It's all a bit uncomfortable for me at the moment when I see red flags beyond red flags. Very interesting situations, because it's clear James Gunn never wanted to direct Superman Legacy. But I'll go beyond that. James Gunn's the kind of creative who needs to be able to enjoy what he's doing. Superman Legacy, to me, as far as James Gunn's concerned, is work, not fun. And that's going to be a problem. It'll be interesting how far we go with this. If he actually does end up directing the movie, things change at DC at lightning pace all the time. And so it's amazing. We thought we were moving forward. We thought we were moving forward. We thought we had people, competent people, but it seems like they're just as bad as the old lot. John, the hype for comic book movies these days have gone downhill. Let me explain to you, John. Right? People are excited for the Batman 2. People are excited for Joker Folie à Deux. People are excited for Penguin. They want definitive visions. It's changed. And, you know, if you're Disney, you must be in panic mode right now. You've got the MCU, you've got this whole slated Phase 5 and Phase 6, and people are losing interest. What do you do with it? You're stuck with anything else. They can't change their course. It's like DC Universe. You know, they're going all, they're doubling down on a connected universe when the box office suggests that's no longer what audiences want. They want the Batman 2. They want Joker Folie à Deux. They want the Penguin. They want Autors. They want high art. They want to remember, you know, the movies they pay to see. Now, a few years back, everyone was more than happy to go and see yet the latest Marvel movie. Now, audiences are, every time something else is greenlit or there's another redo at DC, people are saying, oh no, not another one of them. People are tired. They're fed up. The Grace Randolphs and the John Campions of this world had a good thing. The Shilling, the Shit, you know, the Collider, all the guys on Collider, shilling for Disney, shilling for Lucasfilm, shilling for Marvel Studios. And now all of a sudden the audience say, do you know what? We don't want that anymore. We don't want to hype up the latest Marvel movie or the latest DC movie. And I agree with you, John. What you're saying is not untrue. Ahmed Hicker, hey Movies TV Mad, let's flash talk. Good evening, Ahmed. I do like a man with an opinion. So tell me what you want to know. Now, you have heard, I'm sure, that Tom Cruise has seen the Flash movie. I think this is full panic mode. I mean, it's hype. Of course, it's hype. But what do you want to talk about, Ahmed Hickal? Print away. But yeah, John, you're right. You're right. The party's over. People want to see real movies. People just want to go to the cinema and enjoy a movie. Not watch a mid-Ant-Man movie or a mid-Shazam movie. While I was at the cinema, I enjoyed Shazam Fury of the Gods, but it ain't memorable. Now, there's a place from memorable movies, but I don't think it's as part of a franchise. You know, there's many unmemorable movies that I watched when I was growing up. Police Academy 6 and things like that. But like these days, Police Academy having 6 or 7 movies would be seen as a franchise and an IP. But back then it wasn't. They were just making movie after movie because it was popular and it put butts on seats. They didn't care about connecting shit and connecting, you know, Mahoney's mum and dad. You know, it didn't matter. They were just making movies that people could go and enjoy. And that, as soon as you make a second one, it's a franchise. It's an IP. It's a brand. People are fed up of Easter eggs, cameos, and all this shit. And yeah, they've leaked that Wonder Woman is indeed in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. John, video game movies seem to be the new thing. Yes, I don't think they'll ever reach the heights of superheroes at their peak, but there's certainly Hollywood thinks this is the next thing to jump on. Mario will make a lot of money. Sonic and Sonic 2, tremendously successful. The Last of Us, tremendously successful. But I do suspect if The Last of Us doesn't pick up its game in season 2, that bandwagon's wheels could fall off very, very quickly. Ahmed Hickal, do you believe the Tom Cruise story, or are they trying just to hype people up for the movie by getting a big movie to praise it? I believe you are correct there, Ahmed. I think it's hype. I think they're in panic mode. They need this movie to make lots of money. They're desperate. And who better? Now, clearly, you don't go around saying Tom Cruise loves the movie if Tom Cruise doesn't want to be associated. You know, he'd probably order a hit on you or something. So clearly, this all happened because he was in a meeting with Warner Brothers CEO, David Zaslav, asked him if he could see the movie. I believe there's truth to it, or Tom Cruise is happy for this bullshit to come out. And clearly they had a discussion about something. Could he be involved with DC? But I think if Cruise is involved with DC, he'll want an executive position as well. And things are things are not looking as rosy as they once did for James Gunn as well. He keeps on coming under a lot of pressure from the Snyderverse stands. This sell Snyderverse to Netflix thing is building momentum. The Ben Affleck interview, don't get it twisted. That's all part of the fight. He's on Team Snyder, and he just obliterated James Gunn politely in that THR interview as well. So I'm cynical about the Tom Cruise thing, Ahmed. I believe he's agreed for them to say he loves the movie. For some reason, he must have some involvement. Personally, I'd rather Tom Cruise as CEO at DC Studios rather than Gunn and Safran. But let's talk about Peter Safran, the co-CEO of DC Studios. Peter Safran produced both Shazam movies, two very, very mid-solid, okay, enjoyable movies. Now, someone on Twitter posted something with Black Adam, Shazam, and Superman in it, and they said, why couldn't this have been the movies? And I said, well, why don't you ask Peter Safran? Because he's responsible for both Shazam movies. And suddenly, he finds himself as a co-CEO. He was brought in by Walter Hamada. Walter Hamada is gone. So what exactly is going to change here? They wanted to fire Henry Cavill, they did, and that's put immense pressure on James Gunn, because the people who love Henry Cavill as Superman are really going for Gunn. And he's already getting down in the dirt with these fans and responding to them, which is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Do your talking with your arm. And this is the problem. So I've been very skeptical about James Gunn directing Superman Legacy when we didn't know if he was. And his reaction and his thread and what he said about not feeling the movie in his bones, utterly as a Superman fan, concerns me a great deal. And I think the wheels could fall off this ship very, very quickly. And so, yeah, I mean, look, DC yet again has an uncertain future. We did think. There was some excitement of Gunn and Safran being in charge of DC Studios, but we went from Todd Phillips. Zaslav wanted Todd Phillips and then went for James Gunn when he didn't have any other option. It's clear. And then Mike DeLuca, clearly had some plans as well. And right now, I just don't know what to think, but I am very concerned. I'm very concerned that these people don't know what they're doing, that, and as I say, the pressure, again, I mean, look, it's the Snyderverse strikes back. It's been a huge week if you're a Snyderverse fan. That sell Netflix, Snyderverse to Netflix thing, as I say, is gaining momentum. They're trending again tonight. They're never going to give up. And it's going to be very interesting who this man casts as Superman as well. John, did you see the Little Mermaid trailer? If so, what are your thoughts on it? Bland, uninteresting, boring. I don't agree with race bending. But if you're going to race bend, at least get the right actor of color in the movie. And she has no impression on me. She's very bland, totally the wrong casting. It's clear what they're going for. They're extremists at Disney. But Disney and WB are digging themselves holes. Everything, everywhere, all at once. An independent arty movie swept the Oscars, made a lot of money at the box office. It's clear that A24 make the kind of movies that people want to see now. And Disney and WB are in freefall. WB have always been in freefall, but now Disney are joining that party because they're all about the IPs. They're all about the brands, and that's clearly not what people want anymore. COVID changed a lot of things. It's interesting, isn't it? Since we've come out of that pandemic, the mentality change in terms of Top Gun Maverick, Minions, Rise of Gru. We're going to get a very hugely successful, brilliant Mario film, we hope. So things have changed, John. So I have no interest in The Little Mermaid. I never liked the original animated movie anyway. I think she's a bit of a bimbo, the character, really. She falls in love with this beautiful guy. There doesn't seem to be any depth to that relationship. Let's see what the movie does. But I'm not really interested in this movie. I think it's going to crash and burn like everything else they're doing. and the two biggest studios in the world haven't done the maths. They've got all these IPs, all these brands, and suddenly the audience are saying, we don't want that. We want to see Top Gun Maverick. We want to see everything everywhere all at once. We want originality. We don't mind sequels like Top Gun 2, but as long as they're original and great. And, you know, Tom Cruise is one of the most popular men in the world right now. And that's why they're trying to attach him to the Flash movie. Who knows? He may even cameo in the movie. Who knows? Things could get really strange here. Yusuf Ujuwan, I liked Justice League New Frontiers. The animated movie, I was watching that the other day. I adore that movie. That would be a great take. I don't think that's the take we're going to get. But yeah, well, obviously the animation is much better than the live action. Let's be clear here. Bruce Timm's animation has done a better job than any of the live action since, you know, the DCEU got started. But I want to be clear. I'm a Snyder fan. I'm a fan of the Snyderverse. And Zack's three movies are, I love them. I love Zack. I love his movies. I love the way he makes movies. He's a part of my DC fandom. He had a vision. He had a plan. He makes movies the way I like to see them. Epic, stunning, emotional, compelling. I love that type of shit. So, yeah. And they should have let the man finish what he started. He would have gone on his merry way, and they could have done this restart that they're doing anyway. Do you understand? Firing him never made sense, and they're paying the consequences now. John, have you seen Batman: The Long Halloween? I've seen the two-part animated movie. Yes, John, loved it. As I say, the achievements in the animation for DC are beautiful. Beautiful. Better than the live action. Better than the live action. But Shazam! Fury of the Gods flopping isn't a surprise. Every movie has, ever since after the first Shazam, every DCEU film has flopped. And the only DC films to succeed are over $1 billion, right? And the Batman. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? That people want to see movies like the Batman and Joker. People with definitive visions. They don't want this pre-packaged garbage anymore. So it looks like Snyder, in fact, was a pioneer. And now they don't have him anymore. But he's still fighting. And his fans are still fighting. And I'm a part of his fandom. But ultimately, I'm here for DC generally. User version 1. SnyderCon, it's going to be Rebel Moon panel, not Justice League 2. Right, Yusuf. I'm very much aware, right? Listen to me. He's going to talk about Rebel Moon. But go back and look how he's promoting. Did he mention Rebel Moon? Did he mention Rebel Moon? No. So he's not done. So yes, of course he's going to talk about Rebel Moon. I want him to talk about Rebel Moon. Justice League 2 ain't an upcoming movie that's been greenlit. Rebel Moon is. But he's going to talk about the Snyderverse. He's going to talk about DC. But he's there, of course, to promote his movie. And why not? Sam Design Reviews, he can promote what he wants. The Snyderverse isn't coming back. You don't know that. You probably said the Snyder Cut was never happening. Well, we don't. Cog. You aren't Nostradamus. People keep on fighting. Anything's possible in this game, right? So many things have happened. Oliver Queen, Stephen Amell is coming to the final season of The Flash. Nobody thought that was a possibility. I know this industry. You don't. I've been in Hollywood. I've mixed with them. They will do anything that makes money, my friend. So you don't know. By you saying it's never going to happen because you don't want it to happen, it doesn't mean that it won't. The fans are fighting, and I respect that. Sam Design Reviews. The difference is the Snyder Cut was already filmed. You're talking about making 2 new movies with all the cast back. So what? So what? So what? Why can't that happen? You don't want it to happen. So you say, well, there's a difference. Of course there's a difference from a ready-made movie and an unfilmed movie. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's not impossible. And why shouldn't those fans fight for it? They're the customer. They're making a demand. They may not get it, but, Netflix haven't told them to stop. Snyder hasn't told them to stop. He's at Netflix. He could have said, look, guys, stop it. They're not interested at any time. John, do you think The Flash has a chance of making a lot of money in the box office? John, with DC movies, it's impossible to tell. That movie could make from 2 billion to 400 million. That's how unpredictable DC are right now. There's no question that people are excited to see Michael Keaton's Batman and the different elements of a multiversal adventure and the possibility of other cameos as well. So surely it's going to make more money than the movies that have flopped. Don't forget James Gunn's The Suicide Squad also flopped, right? Let's not forget about that as well. There's a chance for this movie to make good money, but it's so unpredictable. And the fact that people are willing to boycott this movie because of Ezra Miller has got this studio worried. They decided to go ahead with this movie and not shelve it. They brought Ezra Miller in line, and we'll see what happens. Will they use him for the marketing? You know, it's a mess, my friend. It's a mess. This is not a mess of Zack Snyder's making. This is a mess of the leadership of WB, past, present, and future. It's as simple as that. Snyder had a plan. Snyder had a vision. And all they had to do was hold their nerve. That's all they had to do. It would have ended up great. People would have liked it, just how they liked the Snyder Cut, but they didn't listen. They didn't listen. Was it better to fire Zack and deliver Justice League? That Mr. Bean directed level of shit. Was that a better result? It's a mess. Ever since after Shazam, they've had one flop after the other. They can't buy a hit at the box office, global or domestic. And that's where we are. Now, people can keep on talking lazy talk about bad marketing. Nothing to do with the marketing, right? You know, they marketed it at the level they thought, you know, they're not going to overinvest in marketing, but they marketed it enough. But they knew no matter how much they marketed it, it still wasn't going to make any money. So why waste money on marketing when it's not going to make a difference? You can't force people to go to the fucking cinema. Black Adam was over-marketed a lot more than Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and it flopped at the domestic and global box office. So that proves a point, doesn't it? But people still come up with the lazy excuse. The marketing was bad. No. People are not interested in this processed food type of movie making. People have had enough. It's their money. They work hard for it, and they want to see a visionary. They want to see something that goes in there, you know, goes into their soul, and they don't forget. Like all the movies I've seen growing up. And that's the point today. People have had enough of bland shit. People are fed up of bland Star Wars, bland comic book movies. They want something more. And that's where we are. And this is why Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania flopped. Bland shit, same old shit. Same old bland gags, same old, ooh, we're representing women, aren't we cool? The same boring old shit again and again and again. They've driven out the talented people out of Hollywood, brought in a bunch of maniacs who should live in Arkham Asylum, and this is where we are now. They did it to themselves. They went to war with their customer, the most important element of an industry. It's a consumer-based industry. And they don't understand that. And they're going to war with the people who can make them successful, make them money, pay their bills, pay their wages. And they're going to war with these people. Like when Bro's movie flopped, and this guy comes out and calls his audience, his customers, homophobic for not supporting the movie. And this is where we are. They're a bunch of lunatics. But what's worse than being a bunch of lunatics altogether now is being talentless lunatics. And this is what these people are. So I'm really enjoying seeing WB and Disney implode while A24 take all the plaudits and we get real movies back again. Like Ridley Scott's Gladiator 2. King Denzel Washington is in talks to be in that movie. That really excites me. Real movies are back. The days of Disney, the MCU, and Disney Star Wars hyping a bunch of shit and making money out of it is finished. These pundits hyping Disney, shilling Disney is over. And you can tell already the criticisms are starting. The Disney game is over. The Disney dominance is over. We're back with real movies, people being desperate for real movies. People are fed up of IPs and brands and franchises, right? I'm not a franchise, you're not a franchise. We just want to go and enjoy good entertainment. The world is bad enough. And something else, I want to remember Autumn Snyder today. On the Snyder Cut's 2-year birthday, let's remember Autumn. Let's remember why we donate to suicide prevention. And hopefully by donating to suicide prevention, we can avoid what happened with Autumn. Because kids are growing up in a very confusing world where they're told that they can be any gender, they can be this, they can be that. And now kids don't know what they should be. They go to school, they're under pressure. They see this person identifying that way, that person identifying that way. Should I change my gender? They're thinking, what should I do? Should I do it to fit in? It's a confusing, scary world. They're getting bullied via the internet, as Autumn was, an absolute tragedy. So I always choose to think of Autumn, especially when I watched the Snyder Cut. I was blaring out that beautiful, beautiful soundtrack today, and it's just brilliant. Junkie XL, brilliant. You know, Zack Snyder and Junkie XL's and Hans Zimmer's kind of relationship within these movies is absolutely fantastic. So I'm never going to forget Autumn. I'm never going to forget other children who have taken their own lives for one reason or the other. And investing in suicide prevention is so important. So this is why I admire the Snyderverse fandom. That's the side of the Snyderverse fandom that's great. And that's why Zack and Ben Affleck defend these fans, because they've done so much for the charity as well. So there's a lot of good things within the Snyderverse, as well as the great movies as well. They can be absolutely aggressive fans. That's their passion. They're very passionate people. There's no question about it. I don't like some of the propaganda they spread, but they're very good at it. And James Gunn is certainly getting triggered by them, but he must have been very triggered by the Hollywood Reporter article and interview by Ben Affleck. Wow, what a way to tell someone you're not interested in their job offer. And James Gunn still hasn't responded to that either. It's all very, very interesting shit, if you ask me. The plot thickens. So I don't think the James Gunn universe is a nailed-on, foregone conclusion to work. I don't even know if he'll still be involved this time in 6 months. I think things are changing all the time. Warner Brothers are a very, very desperate company. Imagine James Gunn doesn't want to commit himself to directing Superman Legacy, and Peter Safran is pressuring him to commit to Superman Legacy. I don't think this is what James Gunn wants. I don't think he wants to be in this position. And I think this is a guy who likes to enjoy himself when he's creating as well. So I think that Superman Legacy is all wrong for him. I really do. But he's written the movie because he's leading this whole franchise narratively, but a respectable director isn't going to direct his movie because people want to do their own thing with Superman, because everyone has a defined opinion on who and what a Superman movie should be. So no one's going to put their name to somebody else's vision. And I'm quite sure he made some offers to people, to directors, and it's clear they all said no as well. So it's a very, very interesting situation. He's under pressure. From the moment he removed Henry Cavill, he's found himself in an immense amount of pressure. And already you can tell that pressure is starting to toll. You can tell because he's responding to fans. And, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be professional. You should do your job. You should let your art do the talking, as I said earlier. And that's not happening. And big problems ahead. This is challenging. And I don't know what's going to happen with it in the end. But it's going to be very, very interesting because there's a lot of corners of this. Imagine we still haven't moved on from the Snyderverse. We still have got people fighting for the Snyderverse. Whether it's realistic to do so or it'll ever happen or not, we're still here. We're still in Groundhog Day. Now, who knows if the Gunn universe will work? We're going to have to wait for it as well. I mean, we've got to get this year's DCEU movies out the way. They're not going to lead into anything significant either. They'd like us to think they will so we can go and support these movies. But the disaster that is Shazam Fury of the Gods financially, that tells you where everyone's at right now. Black Adam flopped, Birds of Prey flopped, The Suicide Squad flopped, Wonder Woman 84 was a bad movie. It's just not good, is it? It's just, the evidence is there. Jamie Lipton, hello, I really think The Flash will be the only DCU film that will be a big hit this year. Well, that's very interesting. I don't really want to commit myself to whether it's going to be successful or not. As I said to John earlier, the comment before yours, it's such an unpredictable situation that DC find themselves in. You never know what the next DC movie is going to do. But you're only as good as your last game. And every DCEU movie has flopped since after Shazam. Film Gobbling, the marketing excuse is played out. Film Gobbling, BVS had bad marketing. No, Film Gobbling, people like you love to blame the marketing every single time. Now, the marketing for BVS was selling a movie that wasn't the actual movie, and you're right there. But the marketing excuse for Shazam Fury of the Gods doesn't compute. Black Adam, it was over-marketed. It was a flop. How do you explain that? Film Goblin, that's why I'm saying. At the end, no. It's a lazy excuse. You all say it's bad marketing because none of you or the media want to just say that Shazam Fury of the Gods is a bland, uninteresting movie. It's okay while you're watching it, but it's forgettable after you leave the cinema. And why blame the marketing every single time? It's an excuse for creative bankruptcy. It's an easy excuse. The BVS marketing made it seem like it was an Avengers movie. Well, that's not what it made it look like. It made it look like it was a popcorn-chomping WWF brawl between Batman and Superman, and that wasn't the movie that any of us saw. Film Goblin, Watchmen also had bad marketing. No, it didn't. No, it didn't at all. Film Goblin, and so did Sucker Punch. Listen, you can blame the marketing. You can go on this tangent, but it's not true. It's not true. That's an excuse for people who don't want to admit things, right? Now, Watchmen isn't a well-known comic book thing anyway. It's kind of people, it's a cult thing anyway. So that was never going to make huge box office anyway. Jamie Litton, Blue Beetle will flop as there's been no marketing at all so far. Yeah, we're around 6 months away from it. I think, where are we now? April, May, June, July, August. 5 months away. No marketing whatsoever. Could that be because they're going to delay the movie, postpone it, or not show it at all? You don't trust this desperate studio. But you are right, Jamie. There's nothing on Blue Beetle. It may not be released in August. It may be delayed till next year. Who knows what they're playing at with that movie? That's a very, very interesting point. But sometimes movies are just not what audiences want. And in terms of Shazam Fury of the Gods, people are fed up of brands and IPs and, bland movies. They want to see great movies, doing something, making an impression on them. And that's why people are not interested. But also, the DC brand has been damaged from Justice League and all the other shit that Walter Hamada was doing as well. Walter Hamada's franchise failed. He wanted an old age pensioner as the new Batman. He wanted also Batfleck to be replaced by a Batgirl. What kind of thinking's that? They weren't actually going to bring in a new Batman, were they? It's insane. Jamie Lipton, it's an unknown character. That's irrelevant, Jamie. Iron Man was an unknown character. The Guardians of the Galaxy were unknown characters. Film Goblin, can you also believe that people like Camper and Jodie's Corner get to see The Flash early at CinemaCon? It's pathetic that WB still tried to cater to these people. Now, we can agree on that. I don't like the fact that these people get to see these movies early. Why? So they can be... But all it's about, Film Goblin, is because they've got huge platforms, huge followings. They get to see it, spread it to all the people who follow them, and hopefully they'll go and see the movie. But that may not even work. But it's look, as I said, these are all very, very... Warner Brothers and Disney are very, very desperate. all their plans, all their IP chasing, it's all failing and coming to nothing. And they will do anything to gain money and success because making good movies is too easy for them. Film Goblin, WB is desperate. Disney and WB are very desperate, but WB is desperate. Yes, desperate. You know, they're in debt. They're not making a profit. Most of their films are not hits. I mean, obviously, Creed 3 is a rare hit for them, and they're the kind of movies the public want to see now. Real movies, real characters, you know, relatable characters. They're the kind of things that people want to see. Film Goblin, very soon. Film Goblin, if these films don't make money, I can see Zaslav selling WB. Well, who's going to buy it? Who's going to buy a failing company? They're more likely to go bankrupt than be sold. Well, he can't make a profit right now because he's still working with projects he never greenlit. Blue Beetle animated. Shazam was acting like a Marvel character, not even MCU Spider-Man acts this childish and annoying. It's true. They got it wrong. Instead of doing a real Captain Marvel character, they did Big. Tom Hanks from Big. And that's it. People are not interested. People are past that now. The Ryan Reynolds humor, the MCU humor. People have moved on. They are no longer interested. They have jumped the shark. Film Goblin. Rumors are Universal might buy them. That's a boring rumor that everyone was saying. There's no proof that they're going to buy it, and nobody knows what's going to happen. And it can't be sold till next year anyway, so you're going to have to wait and see. Film Goblin. Shazam 2 should have Black Adam and Superman in it. Yes. But you've got to create a proper story and a proper reason for them being there. But instead, they let a wrestler dictate to them. An untalented wrestler like The Rock. They listened to him and it went to shit. This is WB. This is how crazy they are. They'd rather have The Rock running the Shazam franchise than Zack Snyder, a visionary, running DC himself. Think about that for a minute. How idiotic these people are. And so every decision they make is, a wrestler, a fucking wrestler saying, I don't want my character to have anything to do with Shazam. Who are you? Who are you? Just because you go to the fucking gym and you got big muscles. What do you fucking know about films? Nothing. And they put this fucking idiot in charge, and then he fucking goes to the Oscars and goes, we put our best foot forward. You didn't. You got 2 left feet, my friend. Because you made a fucking mess of the whole thing. You made promises about Black Adam versus Superman. You fucking lied. You are a liar. And you made Henry Cavill lie as well. You're all a freaking disgrace. And this is why the DC brand is broken. Film Goblin, they are so desperate to not let the Snyder fandom win. Yeah, they're desperate, but I think the Snyder fandom are also, I don't think there's any desperation with the Snyder fandom. They're just smoking cigars. They're doing a very good job. This is just a bunch of peasants fighting for what they want. And really, they're winning. Let's be fucking honest about it. Look at the damage they're doing. Look how stressed they're making James Gunn. Whether you like them or not, these people are good at what they fucking do. And I celebrate them. John, are you going to watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie? Yes, we'll go and see that. The Shills are saying it's great. I don't believe them. So just because I don't believe them, I'll check it out for myself, John. Film Goblin, they are winning because we are the consumers. Yes, we are the most important element, which the industry doesn't know right now. They think they're shills in the media and them are the most important element. But it's us. Without us, they don't have a business. User version 1, Snyder does so much repetitive solo motion. Yeah, you told me that earlier, my friend, and I don't agree with you. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But I don't think it's repetitive at all. I think it's different each time. But I like what he does. Is it better to be repetitive and bland and crack a few gags that nobody's even going to laugh at? Film Goblin, James Gunn already lost the moment he said he wants to make the DCU the way he wants and doesn't care about what the fandom wants. He has a definitive vision, right? And they're going for the brand. They're going for gaming, theatrical, streaming. The streaming game is dead. The brand is dead. They're getting involved with a brand. It's too little too late. If they did this after Zach first left, maybe it would have worked. But they brought in Hamada instead because Gunn wasn't available at the time. In fact, when Gunn was fired, that's when they should have done it straight away. Maybe they offered it to Gunn and he turned it down. I don't know. But the whole thing's a fucking mess. And when you've got James Gunn pretty much doing a thread about directing a Superman movie and pretty much saying he doesn't feel it in his bones, basically he doesn't even want to make that Superman movie. And we've got Zack Snyder, who's desperate to make a Superman movie. He's giving us Rebel Moon this year. It's going to be fucking awesome. Event of the year. It's insane. WB are losing. James Gunn, by removing Henry Cavill, really started a war. Because before that, the Snyderverse stands were quiet. They were in their box when they thought he was coming back. They were quite happy. They were quite happy to accept the rest of the stuff that was never going to happen. But once they fired Cavill, then the Snyderverse fandom was reignited. And this brilliant idea, this campaign of selling Snyderverse to Netflix was born. James Gunn did this. He started. He fueled their fire again. He did this. This is not good leadership. Film Goblin, I don't believe anything James Gunn says. Well, considering he said Ben Affleck wanted to direct a DC Universe movie, and then in an interview, Ben says, I will never direct your shit, I don't blame you for not believing him. Yusuf as you want. Snyder fandom is toxic. All fandoms and groups have got a toxic element. DC fans, I'm sure there's toxic, there's lots of toxic people in this world. But I'm not a black and white person. It's all very well to say, oh, the Snyder fandom is toxic. I like to call them, passionate. But also, Yusuf, this is the game. People go on social media, they can say whatever they want, and it becomes problematic because one person's opinion is another person's poison. So it's very easy just to say, oh, this fandom's toxic. You think other people are not toxic as well? Do you think calling the Snyderverse and Snyder's film shit? Look at what was being said about Batman versus Superman. Those fans were quiet. In the end, they were bullied and battered, and their director was bullied and battered so much. This is why they're so aggressive. Film Goblin, if The Flash and Aquaman 2 doesn't do well at the box office, then yeah, it proves the Snyder fandom are not a minority. Film Goblin, same with Superman Legacy. Jamie Lipton, if Gunn's Superman movie underperforms, then I'd say it's over. Of course it's over. It's over before it started. Of course it is. That movie is the first movie. It has to work. And he's already said he doesn't feel the movie in his bones, that he's not passionate about Superman. We already know. We know what this director's strengths and weaknesses are, and Superman isn't his strength. He shouldn't be directing or even making this movie. I'm convinced now. Once he said that thing that he doesn't feel it in his bones, that's it now. I'm obsessed. I mean, I was kind of excited, and now I'm just kind of not feeling it. I'm just thinking, no, this guy don't even want to make this movie. What's wrong with this fucking picture? What's going on? Film Goblin, Ray Fisher is also still calling out the current leadership at DC, mainly Peter Safran, since he's friends with Hamada. Yeah, look, Ray's never going to stop either. And the truth is, Ray wants the restoration of the Snyderverse, and I don't blame him. So do I. I don't think you're going to get a situation where Snyder comes in and runs the Central Universe again, but I still think there should be a place for Snyder somewhere, especially in DC Elseworlds. You created this DC Elseworlds. Why can't Zack do his thing there? That seems toxic. Film Goblin, plus the slate Gunn put out is all over the place and don't seem connected at all. Well, I like the slate. That's the one thing I do like. There's a Superman movie there, a Batman movie, a Swamp Thing movie. I understand what you're saying, but in terms of, it looks interesting. But ultimately, he's got Creature Commandos, a group of people, right? Like Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad. Then he's doing The Authority about a group of people, like the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy. That's his strength. He's a one-trick pony. So he's good at those movies, but can he really make an effective Superman movie until he's made it? The problem is, once he's made it, it's going to be too little too late. My advice to James would be this. If you don't think you can run this universe properly, if you're not going to enjoy it, like you've enjoyed your Guardians and your Suicide Squad movies, right? If you're not going to enjoy it, get out. Just make some DC movies with groups in them. Make some good movies. Good luck to you. But if this is not your strength, James, if Superman isn't really what you want to do and you're being pressured by Zaslav and Saffron to do it, then don't do it. Get out now for your sake, for the sake of your mental health, and the sake of DC's future, which are all very important. Film Gobbling, I'm saying the slate overall just seems more like standalone movies and nothing else. Well, they're not. They're not standalone movies. That's not what they're meant to be. Film Gobbling, you were right about DC Studios doesn't exist and Gunn is a front for the old regime and nothing's changed. Yeah, I mean, I've to and fro from that, as you know, Film Gobbling, but I think my hunch was right. I kind of calmed down when things were going a little bit smoother, and you were right to call me out on my original opinion. But I must say, I still don't see anyone working at DC Studios, and it does look like a bit of a front. It looks like the straw house the little piggy makes that's blown down by the wolf, doesn't it? And yeah, I think this studio, not DC Studios necessarily, but Warner Brothers, I just think they're in big trouble. They're in really big trouble. And I think the first choice of Mike DeLuca running DC Studios really was the best idea. The problem is with Mike, he actually wanted to do a real job and a proper job. And clearly, for some reason, they didn't want that. Mike DeLuca wanted Snyder back. That's the thing. And that's the key element why he wasn't taken on. Zaslav really, the only reason Zaslav wants this connected DC universe, because he feels it will make the studio more money. But I'm saying to him, that has passed. That's not what people want anymore. John, when do you think we will hear about the next James Bond? That's actually a specialized subject of mine. Right now, I can tell you that Eon, Barbara Broccoli, aka Barbara Broccoli, and Michael G. Wilson, and Amazon can't decide on the direction to go. So they're lying to the public publicly, but they actually can't decide what to do next. I think Eon want a James Bond of color. I think Amazon may agree with that, but there's lots of things they're not agreeing on. I think Amazon would like Barbara and Michael to move away so they could run the thing. Barbara and Michael don't want to have streaming shows, don't want to have a movie every year, and Amazon do. So they're so far away from casting a Bond and giving us the next Bond movie, John, and that's the problem. That's what I've been told. Film Goblin, the problem is Black Adam didn't make $1 billion and why Mike got let go. Let's be clear. Let me clear you up on that. Mike DeLuca didn't green light Black Adam. That was nothing to do with, that was Walter Hamada, that was Jeff Johns. They're the ones who gave, The Rock, lock, stock and barrel, and allowed him to do whatever he wanted. So Mike, there's nothing Mike could do. Now, yes, Mike did want Henry Cavill back. He wanted the Snyderverse restored. He wanted Zack back. But that film flopping was The Rock's and his people's fault and nobody else's. If Shazam's in that movie, maybe people would have been more excited. Jamie Lipton, I just think after Aquaman 2 is released, we won't see anything from the DCU for almost a year and a half. Well, Jamie, it's physics, isn't it? How can they put together movies for next year? But next year is still pretty cool. I mean, you've got the Waller Show. Not that that's going to be anything special, but it'll be something. You've got the Waller Show. Penguin will be the thing, will be the biggest thing in DC next year. But I'm forgetting, Joker is also out next year. Joker and Penguin are more exciting than anything that James Gunn's doing. So next year, Jamie, is still a huge year, and it's the stuff that people are more excited about. Film Goblin, yeah, but Zaslav fit reactionary because the Cavill cameo didn't up the Black Adam box office. Yes, he's greedy, he's desperate, and he's reactionary, and putting Mike back at WB Pictures was wrong. He should have allowed Mike to do his thing. Mike produced 2 Blade movies. Mike had the idea to do an Iron Man movie years before Kevin Feige did. This guy is a fucking genius. But think about this, Film Goblin. How do you go from wanting Todd Phillips to run DC Studios to Gunn and Saffron, as I said earlier before you came into the chat? John, thanks, Mick, for letting me know about the Bond news. That's all right. I will keep you updated. If there's any more news, I will do separate videos. There's so many things I want to talk about. I just don't want to be a DC channel. I want to be an entertainment channel in general because I love so many TV shows. Right now, I'm rewatching 24. I'm fucking obsessed with that fucking show. Jack Bauer is the most relatable character ever to be on TV. And last year, Kiefer sent this tweet to the lady who plays Chloe. He said, "Get me out of here, Chloe," and he tagged her. It was so funny and brilliant. Film Goblin, I think James Gunn can't do anything else other than CBMs and why he took the job of DC head. He can do certain films with groups and underdogs, you know, and characters with grey areas. I don't think Superman or Batman is his strength. And I think he needs to work on stuff that he wants to work on and enjoy. I just don't think he wants to make this Superman movie. I think he's been pushed into it. And I think that's the problem. Now, Todd Phillips isn't a Joker fan. And I think he's probably got Joker more right than anyone else on film. But he wanted to make that movie. James Gunn doesn't want to do this. James Gunn wants to do another Suicide Squad film. He wants to make another Peacemaker film. And because they a Peacemaker series, and because they pressured him into doing Superman, he's now got a delay doing Peacemaker. And he can't be happy about that. This is not a good situation. You're putting someone on the spot. You're pressuring them to do things he doesn't want to do. I don't think he should be even running the universe. I think he should just do Peacemaker and more Suicide Squad. Let him do that corner. That's what he's good at. Everyone must work to their strengths. This is not James Gunn's strength. It's a very strange situation. That's just my opinion. Blue B to animate. Honestly, I didn't mind DC Universe being disconnected. DC's at its best when it's standalone. I think you're right. Well, actually, I'll prove you right. So, all DCEU movies, franchise movies, have flopped since after the first Shazam. And the latest hits at DC have been the Batman and Joker movie. You're right. You're right. That's what people are excited about. They want visionaries making these films. Zack Snyder at the DC Elseworlds would be great. He's a visionary as well. And the beauty now would be he wouldn't be in the central universe, so the Shields wouldn't get upset. John, do you remember the 24 video game? I've got the 24 video game and I still play it. And do you remember the music video, The Longest Day? That fucking shit still inspires me. Janie Lipton, what if all this affects Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? Well, he was making that film mostly, I think, before he agreed to do this. But it's all very strange. He's writing a Superman movie. He's doing post-production on Guardians 3. Yeah, listen, I don't know how he's able to do that film, work at DC, and go on Twitter every single day as well. It's all very fucking strange. So, yeah, I mean, you could be right there, but I expect it to be a good movie that people like. But if he kills off Rocket, people are going to go fucking mad. That's what everyone's worried about. Listen, I don't know. I mean, if it was to fail Guardians 3, don't forget Gunn's never made a $1 billion movie. Just remember that. But, yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting because I think it's a really anticipated movie. It should do well. The Shield critics will like it, whether it's good or not. But we're in a very interesting position here. And as I say, the Snyderverse stands are chomping at the bit. And it's all because of James Gunn removing Henry Cavill. He did this. He started this Netflix stuff up. He inspired them. He put the fuel up their backsides again. He did it. It's bad leadership. Removing Cavill wasn't a good idea. And this is what Hamada wanted to do. So what's changed? What's changed? If he's just doing what Hamada was going to do, right? And you've got David Ayer saying Toby Emmerich is a good guy. They're not going to shag you, you know, David. In other words, they're not going to give you your haircut just because you bullshit for them. So David Ayer's starting to lose me. And also he said he wants to release an unfinished version of the haircut. That's something I simply don't want to see. I want it finished, right? I want to see the movie you were going to give us. So David Ayer is really beginning to lose me as well. Wow, I talk a lot, don't I? But yeah, there's a lot going on. It's been an interesting week. I must go back to that Ben Affleck interview. If you read that interview, and I've seen a lot of segments on the DC stuff, it really is interesting. But does anyone actually think, and this is what I believe, what a tragedy it is that we'll never see Ben Affleck's The Batman. Ben Affleck is a great storyteller and director and actor. He would have given us a fire fucking Batman movie, and they didn't let him do it. We really missed out. We really missed out. That was going to be Deathstroke. It was going to be fucking awesome. Deathstroke was going to hack Jeremy Irons' Alfred to pieces. A lot of it was going to be based in Arkham. It was going to be a fire fucking movie. And these fucking idiots at this studio haven't got a clue. Because Warner Brothers used to be a studio about making good films first, before anything else. Then they started chasing Marvel Studios and Disney. And now they're getting their tonsils fed to them, right? Every film's a flop, right? They didn't want to do Joker movie, right? They didn't believe Joker movie would work. Egg on their faces or fucking what? They don't know. You assume that these people know what they're doing and know more about the industry than we do. But I think we actually speak more sense than these people do. Some of the decisions they make, are unjustifiable. They're crazy. If you look at things logically, allowing Snyder to finish his arc, then doing a restart like what James Gunn's doing now, that's what Zack wanted them to do. He even was going to do a Flashpoint thing at the end of his movie to allow them to start again. You can't stop a train when it's full speed ahead. These people shouldn't be working for Warner Brothers. They're not doing good things. John, it's probably going to be a long time before we see Deathstroke again in the DC universe. Well, there was rumors of Deathstroke being involved with Peacemaker 2. So I don't think it's going to be the guy who played Deathstroke in the DC Extended Universe. But yeah. Ben Affleck was going to make a great Batman movie. That's all I know. I know what he was going to do with that movie. It was going to be fucking fire. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Look, I think Snyder's plans for DC were epic, compelling, and you didn't see what he was going to do. The Riddler figuring out the anti-life thing, right? Whatever it's called, right? Darkseid's anti-life thing, right? The Riddler. Of course the Riddler's going to work it out. He's the fucking Riddler. Justice League 2 was going to be an Injustice fucking movie. The whole thing's set in the nightmare fucking future. Imagine that in fucking IMAX, right? That's what we were going to get. But you prefer Shazam. You prefer Birds of Prey to what Zack Snyder was going to give us, including Ben's Batman movie. So you all complained. You all complained about what Zack was doing. I've complimented him before. I've called him out on a couple of choices. But ultimately, Zack Snyder's my type of director. He makes films the way I want to see them. Stunning cinematography, compelling storylines, great characterizations, great scores. Zack Snyder gets it. His castings were on the fucking money. And I dare to say this. Jesse Eisenberg may not be the Lex Luthor from the comics, but he was still a fucking compelling version of live action Lex Luthor. And Eisenberg's performance in BVS is brilliant. He really takes it to another level. Sam Hughes, I don't want to see it Riddler was going to kill himself, but you give it a pass because it's Zack Snyder. He took Jimmy Olsen and Nightwing from us. Right. You don't want to see Riddler kill himself, right? He was going to sacrifice himself, right? Okay. So what? So what? Now you're talking about Jimmy Olsen. I love Jimmy Olsen. I do. But Zack doesn't rate Jimmy Olsen as an important character. It's his decision. Now, I know people don't agree with that. That's why Zack should be working in Elseworlds and not the mainstream universe. So I understand what you're saying. Now, I'm not giving Zack a pass on anything. I've criticized Zack and called him out for things that he's done that I don't like before. But at the end of the day, it's his vision. He's doing things his way. I'm telling you what Snyder was doing was better than what these people are doing. That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, and no Nightwing. Oh, well. It don't bother me personally, but I don't give anyone a pass because of who they are. If I see something that I think's wrong, even if I love you, I'm going to tell you it constructively. That's not the point, right? You're calling him out because you don't like him. You've got an axe to grind. Is what we're getting now, Sam, better than what Snyder was giving us? You know it's not. You know it's not. That's the problem. That's the problem. You don't have a good answer to bring in instead of Snyder. Snyder's a visionary. At least replace him with another visionary. James Gunn isn't a visionary. Sam's own views. I do like Zack Snyder. I just don't like his decision on the DC movies. That's up to you. There's nothing I can do about that. But what I'm saying to you on my channel is that I love what he does. And he's my type of dude. He makes films that I remember. I was breathless after BVS, my first. And that was just the theatrical one. That was before the Ultimate Edition. And yeah, the man makes movies the way I want to see them. I love watching The Nightmare Future in BVS. I think it's one of the most stunning things I've ever seen in a CBN. The man makes brilliant movies. And how people can hate this man and say some of the things about this man that they do, I find it baffling. I really do. And this movie fandom's become this kind of sporting kind of fandom now. And everyone's got their knives sharpened for someone. John, did you ever see Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead? Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's a really good film, written by James Gunn and directed by Zack Snyder. They made a good team. Imagine a Superman film written by James Gunn and directed by Zack Snyder. But they don't want to let the Snyderverse stands win. The truth is, they're already winning, right? They're already winning. And if they can't get what they want, they're just going to pull the whole thing down. That's what they're going to do, right? That's their mentality. They're never going to get over it. There was an article a few weeks ago, actually, saying that James Gunn is never going to get past Zack Snyder. I think he could have done if he didn't remove Cavill. He could have kept Cavill but kept Snyder out, and the fans would have been happy. Every Snyder fan was excited. The only thing Snyder fans didn't like, that Henry was trying to be like this Christopher Reeve Superman, and they were playing Christopher Reeve, John Williams Superman theme. And looking back at it now, although I was saying contradictory things at the time, because I was just happy that Henry was back, yeah, that is an issue, isn't it? So everything they try and do has an element of tomfoolery about it. I mean, I think these people are clowns. But yeah, I love most things that Zack Snyder's done. There's nothing that the man's ever done that I don't like or hate with a passion. Because I think the man has the right idea. I think the man's a visionary. And now he's stuck at Netflix making movies for television. I mean, Rebel Moon should be globally, nationwide released when it's out. Not just on TV. I know it's going to get a little bit of a theatrical run in the US, but that isn't good enough. We should all be able to see that movie on the big screen, because ultimately, that's why he's made it. He's made it in that style, but we're not going to see it in that style, and that's a big shame. Zack Snyder is cinema, and it's as simple as that. And yeah, sad, very sad. And DC are paying the price every day for removing him, because no one's done anything better than he did it. It'd be different if someone's come in and pulled it up and made $1 billion per movie, hugely reviewed movies, and everyone's loving it. But that hasn't happened. They don't have an answer to Zack. They don't. Because why they appointed Walter Hamada, right? Someone who did okay with their horror, New Line Cinema horror universe, which is fair enough. I don't know. He just came in because he runs stuff cheaply on a budget. And that's why they brought him in. And the whole thing's just very, very messy. The whole thing. It's literally, since Zack's gone, it's been bad decision after bad decision. They were even making bad decisions behind Zack's back while he was there. So this is where I am right now. Jamie Lipton, David F. Sandberg was tagged in a Reddit thread about Shazam 2 and replied, he's not surprised it's underperformed this weekend. Yeah, I read that. Look, I feel bad for David because he was very honest there. He goes, oh, well, I still get paid. He goes, I'm going to move on and make horror movies. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. He knows he's a bag of shit. He wanted Batman and Superman to cameo in his movie, and they wouldn't let him. They wouldn't. So instead, he had to use James Gunn's wife and best mate. And there lies the problem, right? So I think that David is very frustrated with them. I think you can tell he's very frustrated with them. And he's not arguing with fans. He's saying, do you know what? Do you know what? I've had enough as well. You're right. You're right. The post-credit scene doesn't work. I wanted Batman and Superman, and they wouldn't let me have them. David was great with the first Shazam. He was doing so many Easter eggs for the Snyderverse. So even he is a fan of the Snyderverse. You can tell that. Blue Beetle Animator, I think Snyder should have worked on R-rated type characters rather than working on the main heroes. Well, listen, I'm sure he'd be very good with R-rated characters, but I think he did a really good job with Superman and Batman. His own versions of Superman and Batman. Maybe not the versions that you wanted to see or other people wanted to see, but he made them his own. And they're pretty compelling versions of these characters. Now then, it's not Christopher Reeve's Superman, it's not Tim Burton's Batman, but still, a lot of people enjoyed it. John, did you hear that Jenna Ortega might be in Beetlejuice 2? Yeah, listen, I haven't seen Beetlejuice 1. Jenna Ortega doesn't really excite me in any way whatsoever. And I mean, any way whatsoever. I think, look, she's a solid enough actor, but I think she's just another overhyped individual. They're going to bleed dry, then dump on the side of the road when they're done with her. Jamie Lipton, I really can't see Gunn's DCU lasting 5 years, if I'm honest. Look, I don't think there's anything certain. I don't think they're even confident in what they're doing. I think, look, the noises they're making, when you've got Gunn saying, oh, Ben Affleck wants to direct one of my movies, or Henry Cavill's going to play another role, and none of it rings true, it's a problem. Already you can see he's bullshitting when he said, oh, Zack Snyder called me up and it sounds like he's done with DC. A blatant fucking lie. Zack Snyder never told him he was done. So there's red flags. And you can see the people he's working with as well. Sam DeJamie Hughes, I would take James Gunn's DC Universe over Zack Snyder's because he will respect the source material. Zack doesn't care about comic books. Zack does care about comic books very much. He just does his own versions of them. And you haven't even seen what James Gunn's going to do next. So to say blindly, out of bias, you'll take what he does. You don't know what he's going to do. Bat Super, I have more faith in Matt Reeves' Batverse than anything Gunn is doing. I agree. Couldn't agree more. He's a visionary, like Zack Snyder. That's why they're like that. That's why they're very good friends. Yes, and I think you're like most of the audience. People are more excited about Joker 2 and Batman 2 than DC Universe. Sam DeJamie Hughes, Zack, only read The Dark Knight Returns. That's it. What utter nonsense. Of course, he hasn't just read that. Jamie Lipton, or Gunn will quit. I think Gunn will quit. Because he's already getting in the dirt with the fans. He can't handle it. It's too much pressure. He's not this kind of person. James Gunn is someone who thrives when he's passionate and enjoying what he's doing. So that's why he didn't want to direct Superman Legacy. Blue Beetle Animated, the studio itself really is to blame. Every time something goes a little south, they lose their mind. Yes, they're utterly a reactive studio, basically with the same people running it since 2013. They're reactive. It was their reactive behavior that moved away from Snyder, created Justice League, and no one can say that Justice League is anywhere near one of the best CBMs of all time, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack proved through that movie that his plan was brilliant and they should have stuck with it. But they chose the IP and franchise over the art. And that is the total opposite of what the legacy of Warner Brothers used to be. You are right, Blue Beetle Animator. John, what happens if James Gunn quits? Well, so many different possibilities, John. I would imagine in a panic, maybe, what's his name? His partner, his CEO, Peter Safran, I don't know what would happen because he can't write stuff. He can't come up with something. So maybe DeLuca would have to come in as a desperation and do the thing that he was going to do anyway. I think DeLuca was a better fit. I think DeLuca had some really, really good ideas. One of those ideas probably was Black Adam versus Superman, but I think that would have been at least exciting. Sam Hughes, even if James quits, there's not bringing back Zach, not to replace him in the Central Universe, but Zach should have a role to play in DC Elseworlds. That's where he fits in, Sam. That's my opinion. We can go over this. We can play the tennis match to and from. That's my opinion. You don't want that, and that's fine, but I'm not going to go round in circles. I don't have the energy, mate. You know my opinion. I know your opinion, but Zach is still fighting. His fans are still fighting, and there's no question about that. If that doesn't mean anything's going to happen, but it doesn't mean it won't. But James Gunn, I don't know what's going to happen there. Jamie Litton, if Snyder didn't have to walk away after his family tragedy and he stayed, where would we be now? Well, Zach didn't walk away because of Autumn's death. Zach walked away because they were pressuring him and forcing him to chase the MCU and make a Justice League movie that just lasts for 2 hours. And with the grief of his daughter at the same time, he couldn't handle the pressure of both situations. So that's where he quit. Now, I often ask myself this, Jamie, where would we be now if Snyder's vision unfolded in a beautiful oasis? That's where we would have been. We would have seen Justice League 2 set in an Injustice nightmare future, compelling. Justice League 3 would have finally seen Superman leading a meta-human army and being the Superman we know and love. Now, Batman would have sacrificed himself, and Superman and Lois' son would have been the next Batman. It would have had a direction, and I think if things were really received really well by that point, Zach could have even stayed. As I say, Zach is a visionary. The way he makes comic book movies look is the way I imagine comic books coming to life. No one else has ever done that. We would have been in a brilliant, brilliant position, Jamie, and so would have Warner Brothers. Bringing Zach in wasn't even their idea. It was Christopher Nolan's idea. And ultimately, if you want a general audience to come in and give you $1 billion a movie, probably Zach isn't the right man. But if you want high art as part of your DC franchise, Zach's perfect. It depends what you want. Because you can't really have both. You can't have high art and $2 billion, $1 billion profit margins. It doesn't work like that, right? So, for example, the Dennis Villeneuve Dune movie did really well, but it only went to a certain way, right? It did really well. They liked the money that it made. But at the end of the day, you're not going to make the big, big Marvel money. And what WB were chasing was lazy, cheaply, badly written movies that make a lot of money. That's not the WB legacy. They've betrayed their own legacy. Zaslav bullshitted about going back to the WB legacy. Bringing in Gunn and Safran to do an interconnected franchise isn't the DC way. So Zaslav is a bullshitter as well. But bringing in M. Night Shyamalan over to WB is actually a good move. I like that. But he needs to do more things like that because people like M. Night Shyamalan are the WB way. And Gunn and Safran are not part of the WB legacy. We're just bringing in, we're bringing in Gunn because he worked on a successful franchise over at the MCU. Yeah, that'll work. He's seen what Feige did. It isn't as simple as that. Just because you work with Coca-Cola, it doesn't mean you know the secret ingredient that goes into Coca-Cola. People want to see good movies. Look, nothing's changed from Charlie Chaplin's silent movies or Buster Keaton's silent movies. People want to be entertained and compelled and learn something as well from their entertainment and feel their entertainment and laugh at their entertainment, with their entertainment, cry with their entertainment. They want to be compelled with different multitudes of emotions. And the MCU formula doesn't do that. It's just there for you to watch the next chapter. It's basically like watching a fucking soap opera. Blue Beetle animator Zack made a lot of basic mistakes that frustrated DC fans. The Luthor casting, Doomsday design, killing off Superman early. The audience barely got to know Superman. Right, let me take this apart for you. So you said Zack made a lot of basic mistakes that frustrate DC fans. The Luthor isn't the Luthor from the comics. Really, he's Lex Luthor Jr. Let's get that clear. The Lex Luthor in the DCEU clearly is gone or is dead, and this is Lex Luthor's son. That's pretty plain here. But Eisenberg isn't who I would have cast, but ultimately I do enjoy his version of Lex Luthor, and I don't think it's a mistake. And in fact, if we're talking about comic book Lex, this Lex hates Superman as deeply as Lex hates him in the comics. So I like that Lex Luthor. So then we go to the Doomsday design. The Doomsday design wasn't copy and pasted from the comics, and that's why you didn't like it. I think he looks compelling. I like the way the more we see him, the more the bones come out, and he slowly becomes the Doomsday we know and love. But it's not the exact design, I admit. Killing off Superman too early. It wasn't early for Zack because Zack was making a 5-movie arc. He wanted to kill him and bring him back. It was like a rebirth, if you like, to give us who Superman actually is. But he has to go through all this torment. In a way, it's a Jesus cast, a Jesus Christ crucifixion story, if you like. So for Zack Snyder, and his point of view, he was doing his own versions of these characters. And he wasn't here to give you copy and paste of what you've got in the comics. He wanted to do his own thing. As I say, he's a visionary. Now, as a comic book fan, I understand where you're coming from, but Zack Snyder was doing his own thing. So for Zack and his fans, they're not mistakes. But for other people who wanted to see someone running the central universe who was copy and pasting the comics, they're mistakes. That's why Zack's better off in an Elseworld universe rather than a central universe. I think that's the mistake that they did there, but they went down a different direction. So it's not like people are wrong not to like what he did, but I still think there's a space for Zack Snyder at DC, and it's over at Elseworlds, where it's better for a visionary to be able to do whatever they want. And I think he would thrive. He would get to thrive. Now, you said we don't get to know Superman. I think we get to know him quite well in 2 movies. I mean, what else is there to know about Superman, to be honest with you, right? Superman is Superman. So, how long do you want? Now, if you want a universe that has Superman in 20 movies, then kills him and copy and paste the death of Superman, I've pulled this up before and said, no one could do a better story of a Superman rebirth than the one in the comics. I agree. And I don't think a Justice League movie is a place to have a Superman rebirth story. I think you need to give Superman his own space to do that. So I get that. But Zack was doing his own thing. And ultimately, at least he had his own ideas and he was a visionary. While like Berg, Johns, and Hamada were just making shit up as they went along. Michael Keaton and Leslie Grace's Batgirl replacing Batfleck. What kind? You talk about bad decisions. It doesn't get worse in terms of bad decisions, my friend. So at least Zack had a vision. At least Zack was trying to create Lord of the Rings for DC. He was trying to create high art. And it was certainly, for me, an enjoyable time. And they should have allowed him, because once you start the train, as I say, you can't stop it. Just allow him to finish that thing. It could start again, and we wouldn't be here with flop after flop after flop after flop. And that's the issue we're in. So you could call Zack out for all these things, but the guy's heart was in the right place. He was trying to do his own story. He was trying to create the hero's journey. He's a big studier of the hero's journey. So I think Zack Snyder has great quality, but at least he's not a bum. At least he's someone with a vision and a story and an idea. Hamada, he's a bean counter. That's why he was there. He didn't have good ideas. What was his idea? Michael Keaton as Batman, Batgirl replacing Batfleck, and Michael Keaton's Batman ultimately. Come on, Supergirl replacing Superman, and you're going to call Zack out for what he did, but not call out Hamada for having Supergirl replacing Superman when they should be both standing together. Interesting. And also, with the gun slate, if we go back to that, when I look at that slate, it looks great. But you know what it looks like to me? Someone who's just gone, oh, Superman. Oh, Batman, the Brave and the Bold. Oh, Supergirl. It's like he's just basically written a bunch of things down and hoped for the best. That's what it looks like to me. There doesn't really seem much planning behind it. Now, we'll see if he has a plan. He's clearly got a story idea. So let's see if he can pull this off. Maybe he can. I hope he can, because he's in charge right now. He's the one in charge of this situation. So maybe he can pull it off. I hope that he can. But with what's happened this week, we're just talking about one bad week. And that he admits that he doesn't feel making a Superman movie in his bones. These are red flags to me. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't necessarily mean he won't get it right. But, yeah. Ronnie Dodge. Hey, mate. Good evening, Ronnie. Long time no speak. How are you doing on this very cold Cyprus evening? What do you have to say tonight, Ronnie? Speak to me. Don't be quiet. I don't like quiet. What are you thinking, Ronnie? What are you thinking, everyone else? Jot down, bloody hell. I haven't stopped speaking for an hour and 21 minutes, nearly 22 minutes. Wow. How am I doing it? And I'm a smoker. How are my lungs allowing me to do it? Mick, you are Superman. I'm just going to take a few breaths. Ronnie Dodge, I'm good, mate. Saw Shazam yesterday, thought it was okay. Loved the brief cameo, to be honest. So it sounds to me, Ronnie, that you didn't enjoy it that much then, did you? Just reading between the lines where you say it was okay, loved the brief cameo, to be honest. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the cameo, Ronnie. But, yeah. What can I say? What can I say? You saw my non-spoiler review. I said while I was there, I enjoyed it. But I said it's not a movie I'm going to remember in 6 months' time. Blue Beetle Animator, I'm not Johns and Hamada, didn't mess up. I'm just saying Snyder deviated way too much from the source material. It's not a coincidence BBS had 69% drop in the box office. Well, you see, Blue Beetle, I don't know if you're a man of my age. You sound like a young man to me, and you're all about the aggregate score meters and the Rotten Tomatoes scores and drop-offs and things like that. Now, it's clear the general audience didn't like what Snyder did. But that doesn't make it a bad movie, my friend. You're not an accountant. I'm not an accountant. Now, clearly, you don't like the way Zack does things, and that's fair enough, and we can disagree about that. But ultimately, I'm saying as a piece of high art, it's fantastic, and it ticks my boxes. So I don't give a shit what it dropped in the box office or what it did on Rotten Tomatoes. For me, it was a beautiful piece of art. It was emotional. It was compelling. Snyder does deviate. I'm not denying that. He does his own things because he's got an imagination. He's not your James Gunn. That's the point. Ronnie Dodge liked it, didn't love it, but from Cruise seeing The Flash and loving it makes me hyped. Yeah, be very careful with that, Ronnie, because they're a very desperate company and they will say anything and do anything. Now, clearly, he was in talks while, Zaslav and Cruise were talking. Cruise asked if he could watch the Flash movie, but why were they having meetings in the first place? And can Tom Cruise and James Gunn work together? Interesting. Ronnie Dodge did love Helen Mirren and Rachel Zegler. Yeah, they were I thought Helen Mirren and Lucy Liu did really well. I think my favorite thing about the movie was actually the Wizard Shazam. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Ronnie Dodge and the side mission between the Wizard and Freddie, and that was about it. Yeah, look, Freddie Freeman, Jack Dylan Grazer is always the best thing. We didn't see enough of Asher Angel in the film. I find that highly disappointing because I prefer Asher's kind of characterization of the character rather than Zack's, in my opinion. But yeah, the Wizard Shazam was my favorite thing. I loved him. He was great. He played a little bit more of a prominent role in the movie, and I liked that. I love the actor. He's done so many things. But yeah, you're not going to remember the movie in 6 months, Ronnie. Ronnie Judge didn't see much of Asher, was a bummer. Yeah. You know, and we've got like Deadpool, you know, we've got the Deadpool humor, haven't we? And Shazam, Captain Marvel, is nothing like Deadpool. So why have they got Zachary Levi in marketing saying he's like Deadpool? They just say stuff, hoping the audience want to watch it more. Ronnie Dodge, speaking of news, what do you think of James directing Superman? Well, I was here this morning live on the latest edition of the DC Universe Daily to speak about something disturbing I saw on this very subject, Ronnie. And let me explain to you what it is. So I watched the Ping Pong Fix video, Chris Wong-Svensson, talking about the Fred when James confirms he's directing the movie. I missed out a portion of the Fred where James Gunn says he was hesitant to direct this movie, and that just because he writes a movie, it doesn't mean he feels it in his bones. So basically, he's saying he never wanted to direct this movie, that he's not passionate about this movie, that he doesn't feel it in his bones. And for me, James, as a Superman, Ronnie, as a Superman fan, I see the red flags in my face all over the place. It's even like James Gunn has been pressured into writing and directing a Superman movie. And for me, this is utterly problematic. And this can only end in tears. Now, I've said in videos before, I don't know if you've seen them on Twitter, I've always been concerned about James directing this movie. I don't think he has the technical ability to do Superman in the right way. Who knows what he's writing for the movie? I think James Gunn is a man who has to feel and be excited about what he's doing. His strengths about underdogs characters in the grey areas, groups of characters. He'll do a great job with Creature Commandos and the Authority, but Superman and Batman are not his strength. So I have concerns. I'm not going to lie to you, Ronnie. Ronnie Dodge, I guess they pressed him to do it because it's the first movie of the DC year, and probably no other director wanted to direct his version of that movie. Like the Ben Affleck situation where Ben said, I would never direct a James Gunn DC Universe movie because I don't like the way they're doing it. So how are they going to bring in directors to make these other movies if they can't even get Ben Affleck to do one? He's a great director, but we're not speaking about Coppola, Spielberg, you know. Leo Pereira, completely agree with you, my friend, about James Gunn directing the main characters. What, is it Leo? Well, Leo, my point is here, I don't think he has the technical ability to do Superman. As I say, for me, James Gunn has to feel what he's doing. And with Suicide Squad and Guardians, you could tell he wanted to be there. He doesn't want to make this Superman movie. And that is a problem. How have they got themselves in this situation, studio, yet again? Ronnie Dodge, Mangold is doing Swamp Thing. He hasn't been confirmed yet, Ronnie, so we don't know. He was in talks, but he has not been confirmed to do that movie yet. John, do you think James Gunn will direct Batman Brave and the Bold as well? Well, considering for the next 2 years he's going to be working on Superman, and obviously we're not going to see Batman Brave and the Bold before that. It's possible, but obviously if Superman Legacy isn't adored, then clearly he won't be doing anything. But there is a possibility that he could make that film again. I don't think he's the right person to do a Batman movie. They've got Batman here, Batman fucking everywhere as well, which is also an issue, because can he do a better job with Batman than Matt Reeves is doing? No. Ronnie George, I would let Andy to direct Brave and the Bold if The Flash is a hit. Yeah, Andy Machetti's a visual director, so you want Andy Machetti doing kind of the superpowered characters kind of thing. Maybe he could do a Sasha Calais Supergirl at DC Elseworlds. That would be a really cool thing to do if they don't want her part of the main universe. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with Andy. I think probably should have directed Superman Legacy. I think because even Michael Shannon said he's a great technical director, visual director. He's very similar to Zack Snyder. And I think that's another thing about the Flash movie. It's made in the style of a Snyder movie as well. Ronnie Dodge, Justice League movie is a good thing for Andy as he can deal with multiple characters. Yeah, it'd be interesting when the Flash is released, and we'll see what it's like. Leo Pereira, James Gunn now have a chance in Commando Leader, and in my opinion, he shouldn't be involved as a director in any movie, even less with Superman. I just look, I have got my concerns with him doing Superman and Batman. He doesn't like Superman and Batman. He likes the smaller characters, and he's good at doing those smaller characters. I think James Gunn should have been a cog in this wheel and not the person leading it. And I think that's the problem here. As I say, for all I know, he could do a great job running this good ship DC. We just don't know. Ronnie George, I suppose with Shazam out of the way, Flash press can kick on now. Well, they're in panic mode now, Ronnie. So you will see a lot of press and talk about the Flash movie. Problem is that movie isn't out for a very long time. John, was Zack going to introduce a Supergirl? Well, he did have a prequel comic where he does introduce Supergirl. And the missing there's all those like skeletons in the kind of Fortress of Solitude spaceship, and there's one empty. That's supposed to be Supergirl's casket. So she is out there somewhere in the Snyderverse. So he clearly had some kind of a plan for her. His Supergirl, if she's anything like Feora, because he nailed Feora, I don't mean he nailed her and slept with her. I mean, he nailed the character. So if he got her right, and he does get his females right, like Wonder Woman, he would have given us a great Supergirl. Blue Beetle Animator, if the Gunverse fails, do you think they'll bring back Snyder? Snyder will never run a central DC universe again. But, as I keep on saying, there's a place for him at DC Elseworlds. He will be perfect for DC Elseworlds. So Snyder's not going to come back to run the main universe. But why not have him doing his own thing at DC Elseworlds? That's what we all want. We're not asking for a lot. So I don't think they'll bring him back to replace Gunn. But I think, when you're going for Todd Phillips to run DC Studios and then you go for James Gunn and Peter Safran, something's not right. Jamie Lipton, I've honestly liked all the DCU films, so when The Flash is put up and after I've seen it, we'll watch all of them again. My enjoyment level has been Man of Steel, loved it. BVS loved it. Suicide Squad loved it. Wonder Woman loved it. Zack Snyder's Justice League, I don't talk about Justice League, loved it. Aquaman loved it. What's his name? Shazam is okay. And then after that, I didn't get much out of Birds of Prey. Didn't get much out of that film. The Suicide Squad by James Gunn was a pretty good film. Like that, Wonder Woman 84 was a pile of shit. Black Adam was enjoyable while you watch it, but not exactly a well-made movie, but enjoyable. So I think up to Aquaman, I really enjoyed the DCEU. Then I wasn't enjoying it as much. Ronnie Dodge, Zack doing SnyderCon. He is. Leah Pereira, do you think Snyder will deliver some large news on his SnyderCon like happened in the Snyder Cut announced? No, not about DC. I think the main news you'll get from him is about Rebel Moon. I think he'll talk lots about Rebel Moon. I don't know what he's going to say about DC, what his attitude about the Netflix campaign is going to be, but I don't expect him to make any big DC news. That's super. I love how Zack portrays powerful women without putting men down. That is true equality. Exactly. Zack does it the right way. Feora, Lois Lane, Wonder Woman. I mean, that Wonder Woman movie, the first one, she's sitting there with the men, listening to that guy who can't shoot people anymore, that marksman. It's brilliant. That's what it is. You're right, Bat Super. Absolute. Zack knows what he's doing. A great Wonder Woman. And basically, let's be honest, that first Wonder Woman movie is him. He made that movie. He co-wrote it with Alan Heinberg. Patty Jenkins pretty much just told the cast to look up in the sky and say blue. Let's be fucking honest about it. And Zach's very kind for never outing that situation. But she wasn't, Patty Jenkins wasn't the female director he wanted anyway. John, did you notice that when James Gunn made his DC announcements and talked about the DC Elseworlds, he did not mention Zack's Justice League? No, of course not. Because he won't want. Look, nobody wants someone to make them look bad. The problem is, if Zack was to start continuing his arc, his films are going to look better than Gunn's. And Gunn knows this. This is why he would. So he don't want that to happen. He wants Zack to stay out of commission. The problem is, Zack has got a lot of fans, and Gunn is making mistake after mistake publicly with his public announcements. He over-elaborates. He talks too much. He doesn't know when to stop. And the removal of Henry Cavill is what really got him in trouble. It's what fired up the Snyderverse stands yet again. It was a tactical error on Gunn's part. Now, I'm not going to tell you if he's wrong or right in bringing in a new Superman. Time will only tell. And if he casts the wrong dude, the Snyder fans are going to eat him alive. They're just going to show him gifs of Henry Cavill's Superman. So if he was to cast someone like universally bad, someone that nobody wants, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. I don't really think Gunn has any plan here. I think Gunn's just making it up as he goes along. It does look that way, to me anyway. So yeah, he's not going to tell you how great the Snyderverse was. He's not going to talk about that. He wants to keep away from it. That's why Henry Cavill is no longer Superman. We'll see. We'll see what he does. Because sooner or later, showing pictures of comic book fronts and covers isn't going to cut it. And he's going to have to make a movie called Superman Legacy. And he's going to be compared to Superman the movie and Superman 2 and Superman 3 and Smallville. And Superman and Lois is a fucking fire peak version of Superman as well. So this guy has a lot to live up to. And personally, I don't think he's capable of pulling off Superman. I think he should be a cog in the wheel doing Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. He shouldn't be running the thing or writing and directing a Superman movie. I think he's totally wrong for Superman. And I'm very, very concerned. I hope to be proved wrong. I really do. I don't mind being wrong about this. But there's something in my gut. That's not my gut. That's my chest, isn't it? But there's something in me that's telling me this ain't good. And the whole thing is a front. The whole thing, look, what are they doing? What are they actually planning? Are they going to do all this stuff? Are they going to sell WB? Who fucking knows? I see incompetence wherever I look. And the truth is, from Zack Snyder's point of view, he wasn't incompetent. He was doing his thing. He had a plan. He had a vision. Now, the studio behind him, they were incompetent. They were reactive. But Zack's not incompetent. He knows his plans. He's ready to make his movie, shoot his shots. He knows what he's doing. And you can't say that for a lot of creatives in the industry today. He's got very slowly, very lightly. He's unaggressive. Everybody loves working with him. Look, I think he's a pioneer. I really do. And the way he was treated was reactive and it was bad. But this is the environment we're in today. It's not just the studio who treated him badly. It's fans that treated him badly as well. And let's just say this as well. Zack Snyder never goes on social media, never gets down in the dirt with fans at all. And, you got people on social media blaming him for his daughter's death. It's disgusting. And Zack never responds to any of it. He'll answer fan questions sometimes on Vera, but he won't get down on the dirt and argue with peasants. Where you see James Gunn trying to make people look stupid. I mean, Zachary Levi is doing it on Twitter at the moment, arguing with people. And, in the end, you're looking stupid. People are saying there's no future for your Shazam characters. Going, well, it all depends on the box office. But mate, you can see that your movie was projected for 40 million, and now it's not even going to make 40 million. It's going to make 30, 33 million. So you're making yourself look fucking stupid because these people ain't clever. Never think these people are clever. I mean, people say footballers are as thick as shit, but these people in the industry today are really thick as shit, and you can tell. But this is what happens when you live in a bubble and everyone puts, their mouths to your backside and says, you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. In the end, you start to believe it and you don't like listening to any opposing opinions. Although he claims he likes discourse, he likes interacting with people who disagree with him and oppose him, and he doesn't like muting or blocking. So I like that attitude as well. Leo Pereira, I love Snyder Vision, and it's a shame on not let the man finish his vision, which ended with open ARC to another director's continue on his vision. It was not a closure circle, as a lot of people think. No, you're right. What happened with that was ridiculous. I often think what could have been. I'm happy we got 3 Zack Snyder movies. That's better than nothing. But he had a plan. He should have been allowed to finish that plan. And the studio, the company, have been paying for it ever since because they haven't come up with a solution to Zack Snyder. They haven't brought in anyone who's done a better job. You could even argue that maybe James Wan should have run DC Studios over James Gunn. Because I think Wan's an interesting guy. He's got his own studio as well. I think Gunn's all wrong. I think Gunn he's got a big ego as well. I like James, right? I'm not saying I don't like him. There's not an agenda here. But there's a lot of ego. There's a lot of showboating with James. He talks too much as far as I'm concerned. Leo Pereira, you're right. Thank you. But yeah, so I think there are issues with James Gunn. I don't know what to say. Because I liked Peacemaker. I genuinely liked Peacemaker. He took a guy who was brought up in an abusive environment and did something beautiful with him. In fact, John Cena's performance as Peacemaker in Peacemaker brings you to tears when he's talking to the bird eagerly. And it's a beautiful moment. And you can see someone watching him talking to eagerly. So it's not like James Gunn isn't a good storyteller. But I think in a certain environment, like Peacemaker, like Suicide Squad, like Guardians, like Creature Commandos, like The Authority, he'll nail all of that. I think he should be writing and directing The Authority now and leaving Superman to somebody else. But it looks like nobody really wants to touch it because it's his vision. People want to do their own thing. Look, it's all very, very messy, very, very messy. And the Snyderverse stands and not making it easy either. And we have a bit of a problem. It's a problem that's been there since Justice League, I'm afraid. It's not going to go away. The situation will never go away. And if they just allowed Henry Cavill to make one more Superman film, those fans would have been happy. Gunn could have done his thing, unopposed, but they're not the smartest people, right? What can I say? Removing Cavill tactically was definitely a mistake. It may not be a mistake in terms of what Gunn's planning, but I think tactically and what it's meant for the opposition from Snyder fans, I think he's definitely made a tactical error by removing Cavill, not even allowing him to have a farewell cameo. I think utterly problematic. In terms of a tactical point of view, definitely. It's definitely biting Gunn on the arse. And he doesn't know really how to deal with the Snyderverse stands. Because you can go around saying, oh, this is a toxic fandom, and, the usual shit that people say. But ultimately, a lot of the points they make is true. The DCEU has had flop after flop after flop. It kind of proves that people don't want those condensed kind of movies anymore. What's he going to give us? Condensed movies. So we'll see if he pulls it off. But I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of question marks about this whole thing. But without us seeing anything, it's very difficult to judge it. But the Ben Affleck situation, that interview, certainly exposes Gunn. That wasn't his best day. So already you can see holes in the whole James Gunn thing. That's super. One thing Gunn said that I dislike is when he called Superman a galoot. I didn't like that either. I looked at the world up and it means clumsy and stupid. Yeah, I think he must be talking about Clark Kent. Maybe he's planning on making Clark Kent like the Christopher Reeve one, who's bumping into people and things like that. Maybe he meant that. I mean, I didn't particularly like it. I didn't really go off on one about it, but I know what you mean, Bat Super. So clumsy and stupid. Maybe he's talking about Clark rather than Superman. I don't know. But we're going to find out sooner rather than later. Either he does this, he quits this. For me, if I was him, I'd go to David Zaslav immediately and say, David, this isn't for me. I shouldn't be doing this job. I don't want to write and direct this Superman movie. I want to do Suicide Squad 3 for you. I want to do another Peacemaker series for you. I want to do The Authority, and I want to do Creature Commandos because they're within my strengths. And Superman and running a universe isn't. This would be the best thing, I think, for his mental health, bringing someone who actually wants to do this stuff. And as I say, how do you go from Todd Phillips to James Gunn running DC Universe, DC Studios? There's a lot of question marks over this whole situation. And, you know, as I say, we're not going to see anything for about 2 years. So it's very, very difficult right now. And what you've got this year is a bunch of movies that Gunn, Safran, well, Safran actually had a lot to do with these movies, but Gunn and Zaslav had nothing to do with. So you can't blame Zaslav for Shazam Fury of the Gods flopping. It's not his fault. You know, you can't blame James Gunn for this movie flopping. He had nothing to do with it. So you've got to keep your opinions in check over this. These movies are from a defunct universe that didn't work. And I'm not talking about the Snyderverse. This is from the Hamadaverse, right? Defunct, failed. That's why Zaslav got rid of him. He didn't do the right things, right? And in his franchise, the Hamadaverse, failed. Bat Super, if he meant Clark putting on an act of being clumsy and stupid, then that is fine. But if he really made it sound like Clark actually is a dummy, it makes me think of some people who call Superman a himbo. Look, my friend, I'm someone who doesn't react to idiots, right? So, yeah, look, people want to call Superman a himbo, let them call him that. I don't think James is the biggest of Superman fans anyway. And he does say some odd shit, you know, which is crazy. As I say, he over-elaborates, he talks too much. But I don't think he's a Superman fan, and maybe he sees Superman that way in general. It's up to him. Ultimately, making a Superman film, to me, is an opportunity of a lifetime if you get it right. Zack took his shot and did something unique and original with verve and imagination. He may not be the Superman of your childhood or the Superman from the comics, but he made the character his own. He had a definitive vision. Let's see what he's going to do. So, of course, Superman isn't a himbo. Superman is a very intelligent man with all the knowledge of the universe, thanks to the Fortress of Solitude. He's a compassionate man. He's a beautiful character when you do him right and when you understand him. So other people's opinions on something we love, Bat Super, shouldn't be important to us. We have to ignore people. This is the age of social media where everyone's opinion is on your, when you're scrolling down, you see it. It's part of life. And we've got to be strong. And when we see an opinion or something stupid we don't like, we either respond to it constructively or we move on and we don't let it affect us, because there's lots of people saying stupid shit on the internet, regrettably. And if we let that affect us, we're just going to go fucking mad and we'll end up in Arkham. John, what are your thoughts on the Harley Quinn animated series? Look, it's well made, it's well written, but we all know what it's all about. It's about extremist creatives making fun of men and trying to uplift the women. It's woke because basically she's a lesbian in this. She's having a romance with Poison Ivy. And basically, instead of the Joker, because we can't have straight relationships anymore. And that's my thoughts around it. The people making it are talented. I like the animation. I like the writing. But ultimately, it's utterly woke. It's anti-male. And it's part of the mentality we live in today. A bit like Everything Everywhere All at Once. A brilliant film, but that moment where basically the guy's being bashed over the head with the dildos. It's a point. It's an extremist point of view. And this is where we are today. And, basically the industry has driven out the talented people and brought in extremists. This is where we are now. And it's not much fun. But, you know, until they bring back the talented people, you know, the bankruptcy will continue. You know, us fans being right and exposing them. It's funny to see Bob Iger back at Disney and Disney Plus failing and the MCU failing and Lucasfilm failing because how incompetent and how clueless these people are. So let them continue. Let them continue with their extremism, but it's not getting them anywhere. So, but yeah, as a piece of work, I think it's really good. It is entertaining, the Harley Quinn animated series, but it's made by extremists as well. And that's my opinion on that. So I have lots of concerns over the future of DC. I think it's a shame. It would have been easier to make a great DC franchise rather than a bad one. You know, WB have made hard work of a straightforward situation. Make films. I think the best thing for DC, as someone said earlier, make visionary, self-contained movies. Like the Snyderverse, like the Batman franchise, like the Joker franchise. I think if DC Elseworlds literally had the Joker franchise, the Batman franchise, and the Snyderverse franchise, that thing would make more money than a connected universe. Now, I know Zaslav thinks there's more money in a connected universe, but I think the audience is now considering MCU movies failing, DCEU movies failing. It just seems to me that these empty bags of fresh air are not working for the audience anymore. Leah Pereira, always want to know how much do you love the Snyder Cut? I absolutely adore the Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut, my friend, is one of the best movies ever made. And don't forget, they rushed the CG, although Weta did the CG, so that's why it's so good. Even, you know, they had to do so many shots within a year. Stunning cinematography. Zach is a cinematographer as well as a director. I absolutely adore the Snyder Cut. The storytelling is beautiful. What they did with Ray Fisher's Cyborg, beautiful. The Flash gets a beautiful arc, especially when he does his speed run and breaks his rule in the end. Beautiful moments. Junkie XL's music, 4 hours of fucking beauty, was blaring it out today. It's a special, unique work. It's a masterpiece. And the achievement, you talk about uncomic book accurate. Well, Darkseid is brilliant. And the relation of the guy who created Darkseid lauded Zack for what he did. It's an unforgettable film. I have a 4-hour movie, a Justice League movie in my collection, a beautiful movie I can watch anytime. Good luck trying to make a better Justice League film than that, Mr. James Gunn. Blue Beetle Animated, this is the 90s all over again. What do you mean? Can you elaborate what you mean by that, Blue Beetle? John, DC were too worried about catching up with Marvel. Yes. They chased the brand, the IP, the money, rather than the artistry. They had an artist in Zack Snyder making high art and had appreciation from many different corners. Maybe not the general audience. Maybe not shield critics like Campier and Randolph. I mean, Randolph loves Batman versus Superman to defend her, but she hates Man of Steel. But she really does like Batman versus Superman. And for me, that film is a wet dream to me. I think it's a classic. Leo Pereira, yeah, one of the greatest CBMs ever done. I'm glad you love as much as I do. A masterpiece worth every second of battle to get it done. Yeah, listen, it's one of the most unique. Fighting for the Snyder Cut story, the story of Justice League, the film, and the process of it being made and what they did to him is one of the most unique stories in Hollywood history. Correction, it's one of the most unique stories in Hollywood history. It's the most unique story. We have a director who lost his daughter to suicide. He loved her. Of course, she was his baby, but she loved films. That's the thing people don't understand about Autumn. She loved films. She went to work with him. She loved this stuff. And it really did, you know, a very personal loss. Because, first of all, it's a child. Any child dying, even if we don't know them, should be a personal loss. But this was his daughter. You know, he loved her. And to keep on going, as the Snyders did after that, again, is credit to them. So how anyone can hate these people I don't understand, because I've never heard them attack their detractors ever. Zach did it once to Scott Mendelsohn, once, and that was it. And he wasn't even that aggressive, because Zach isn't. Zach can go at it. Zach, can defend himself. But obviously Mendelsohn was winding him up, because don't forget, Zach knows what they did, what Joss Whedon did to his film and how he urinated on it. So, it's a unique situation. I celebrate the Snyder Cut. I should watch it in bed tonight for 4 hours. I genuinely love it. I genuinely love Zach as a person, as a director. I'm so happy about Rebel Moon. I know it was very devastating for him when Lucasfilm rejected his pitch for Star Wars. Now, let me be clear why it was rejected. George saw it as too dark for what he wanted for Star Wars. He loved it. He loved the pitch, but it was too dark for him. But we're going to see it. And this is going to be an exposing day for Warner Brothers Discovery and for Lucasfilm when that film is released. I'm so excited. Blue Beetle Animator. I meant it's the 90s because comic book movies aren't taken seriously anymore. Well, the Batman is taken seriously. The Batman 2 will be taken seriously. Joker is taken seriously. Joker Folie à Deux is taken seriously. The Penguin series will be taken seriously. But it's the other stuff that people have moved past. The canned peas, the condensed milk, the empty bags of fresh air. People want to have an experience, Blue Beetle Animator. People are fed up of seeing bland, overhyped crap by shield critics. It's the best thing ever when it's not. And that is what people are fed up of. There's plenty. The future of movies, comic book movies, is Batman 2, is Joker Folie à Deux, which will be a fucking musical. How unique is that going to be? This is what people want to see. A different experience made by talented people instead of the fake army or the gun mentality. And I'll give you an example of James Gunn. I think he's a talented guy. He's no Coppola, as I keep on saying, he's no Scorsese. Very overrated, but he's talented. But let me give you the MCU mentality. In Suicide Squad, they're talking about Rick Flag, her and Bloodsport, saying how much they loved him. Then one cracks a joke while they're talking about the death of a so-called friend, because this is done to lighten the mood. This is what the MCU do all the time. It's a mistake because they don't want to stay too serious for too long. That is the difference between Snyder and Gunn, and the Snyder mentality and the MCU mentality. Now, the MCU, when it first started, actually wasn't that comical. Iron Man is a serious movie. Yes, Tony Stark cracks some jokes, but it's a serious movie, as is Iron Man 2, as is The Incredible Hulk, as is the Captain America First Avenger movie, as is the first Thor movie. They were making real movies for a while, including the first Avengers. Then something changed. It became a gag fest. You watch Iron Man 3, it's a fucking gag fest. They changed for some reason when they became successful, because success changes your mentality. It gives you an ego and you go down a certain direction. And people like Warner Brothers wanted to chase that direction, but they tried to cheat their way through it. If they started the DCEU in the same tone as the MCU, they would have gotten away with it. But they took what Snyder was trying to do, which was totally the opposite. Now, in the 90s, superheroes weren't taken seriously because how many superheroes were being made anyway? There's a couple of little ones, but it weren't an era to make superhero movies anyway. But it was in the early 2000s when the first X-Men, I think the first X-Men might have even been in 1999. But yeah, the 90s wasn't an era for superhero movies. It just wasn't. But we were getting films like Ghost and great movies like that. So, it all goes full circle, doesn't it? But yeah, and I'm going to have to sign off in a minute. I've been talking non-stop. I've really enjoyed myself tonight. It is sad. It is sad that Shazam! Fury of the Gods has flopped. I feel sorry for the cast, the crew, everyone, really, and the director, David Sandberg, who deserves better, who's a talented man. who's going back to make horror movies and who will make great horror movies again. He tried his best, but it's not up to David. He just directed the movie. He wasn't telling the stories. He was just directing the movies. Like, you know, an episode director of The X-Files or Smallville. You know, you don't run the narrative. He wasn't running the narrative of those films. They weren't really his films. And, you know, that's the problem. So, yeah, look, at the end of the day, I do love Zack Snyder. I do think what he was doing was utterly unique, very special, very interesting. And when you look at Kevin Feige say, I'm worried about Batman versus Superman, and then literally rips off Batman versus Superman in Captain America Civil War, it's a crazy situation. And DC hasn't repaired itself since Snyder left because they had an opportunity there. They could have had Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns. They could have come out and said, right, we have had creative differences with Zack. I'm Jeff Johns. I'm Joss Whedon. We're going to start from scratch with maybe a Batgirl movie or maybe a Justice League movie of their own. If those guys did their own thing, they would have nailed it. We would have been in a better position. But they tried to take Zack's movie and continue what they wanted to do by pouring scorn on Zack's movie. They wanted to cheat their way to success. But if Joss and Jeff Johns actually did their own thing, started again, it would have been better. At least it would have been more honest. But they've done it to themselves. And it really is pretty much the same leadership as before, apart from Zaslav. But the people behind the scenes, they're all still there. Emmerich is there behind the scenes. He's got a production deal with them right now. So where's Jeff Johns? Is he there as well behind the scenes? We don't know. It's all very, very interesting, isn't it? But as I say, it's been an exposing week for James Gunn, especially that Ben Affleck interview, which I found utterly shocking. You know, an actor-director going on an interview and saying, I would never be involved in those films. He's a great guy and everything. I'm sure he'll do a great job. The bullshit respect. But literally, he gave James Gunn the finger in an interview. And, you know, it's stunning to me. And Gunn hasn't responded to that yet. So that was a revelation after Gunn telling us that Affleck wanted to direct a DC movie. And Affleck said the total opposite. What does that say about James Gunn? How can we trust in what he's saying? It's fucking insane. What's going to happen next? I don't know. I think we're in a situation where anything can happen right now, where plans could change at any time. And I think this is where we are. Because when you've got someone like James Gunn, who talks a good game when he's on social media, but says, I'm developing a franchise, I'm writing a Superman movie, but I may direct it, I may not direct it. And then when he admits he is going to direct it and says, you know what, just because you've written a movie doesn't mean you feel it in your bones. Basically telling us that he's not really feeling this movie. He's not a Superman fan. He doesn't really want to write and direct a Superman movie. But because he's head of this now, he has to do it. This is not a good situation because, as I said earlier, someone like James Gunn needs to feel what he's doing. He has to be interested in it. He's not interested in Superman. This is more like work than fun. And for some people, when it becomes more like work than fun, they can't operate efficiently. And that's the problem. And I think these are the red flags I'm seeing with James Gunn. It's not that I don't think the man's talented, because he is. But I see that as a problem. Thank you, everyone. It's been a brilliant live from my point of view. I've really enjoyed talking to you all. I want to thank Blue Beetle Animator. I want to thank Leo Pereira. I want to thank John. I want to thank Bat Super, of course. And I forgot there was someone else that we had a few disagreements, but totally respect you. What's his name again? I forgot. Let me just check so I can say goodbye. Oh, my God, I forgot. Oh, Ronnie Dodge, thank you very much as well. Ronnie, we didn't disagree with anything. Where is he? Where is he? I'm just trying to find you. Sam the Jam Reviews, thank you very much for coming in. Oh, no, whoops. What am I doing? Oh, yeah, Film Goblin, that's right. Yeah, and thank you, Film Goblin, as well, for all the chats and the disagreements. Had a lot of fun talking to you as well. It's always great to do these videos. There's a lot of stuff going on as well. Leo Pereira, James Gunn must stop to come forward publicly before get something already established, because more and more times his star became being viewed as a liar. Yet I don't know if he's lying. I mean, he clearly offered Ben Affleck a movie. Clearly, Ben Affleck said no, but he didn't reiterate that to the public. So I don't know if he's a liar, if he's making everything up as he goes along in terms of the so-called plan. I don't know. I think that Zaffron and Gunn and Zaslav are digging themselves a really, really deep hole here. And even Tom Cruise likes the flash shit, things like that. We will see. We will see. Because I can't see Tom Cruise attaching his name to something that ends up being a piece of shit. But who knows? It's going to be a very interesting situation. And why? And why is he shilling this? Oh, I pinned this. Hang on a minute. Why did I pin this? I'm losing it. Unpin. How weird. I pinned something. Oh, anyway, I'm losing it. I've got to go. Totally losing it now. I have been talking for over 2 hours. Anyway, everyone, it's been absolutely fantastic. John, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much, John. Thank you, Leo Pereira, as well. That's super. Thank you for today. Looking forward to next time. Me too. Thank you, Leo Pereira. Yeah, we will see you. Bye, brother. Thank you, Leo. This has been Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most, just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Leo Pereira, thank you as always. Thank you, Leo, as well. So until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. I definitely deserve not custard cream, a cup of tea and the syrupy cakey thing that I bought today. Looking forward to that. Maybe doing an editorial video tomorrow, pre-recorded or live. Haven't decided what I'm doing with the DC Universe Daily, but there's never a dull moment in DC. I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about again tomorrow. So until then, goodbye and thank you.